All right.
I want to say
3, 2, 1. Ooh.
Okay, Kerri, it is so good to meet you.
You
Like I
too.
said off camera.
It's a long time coming.
Yeah, I think
It
I
is.
first DM'd you probably November, December.
Yes. Yes.
And then obviously we couldn't talk because the show had been announced. So it's like, okay, the second you're allowed to, we'll do an interview. So yeah, it's so great to meet
Almost
you.
a year later. Well, it's like 7, 8. A pregnancy term later, child.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you doing just lovely, having so much fun this weekend?
I am. You know what's funny is I watched that meme that went viral a while ago of Lady Gaga talking about no sleep, next club, another club, plane, bus, no sleep, another club, and I was like, girl, bye. That's who relates to that? I don't relate to that. Whatever, whatever, honey. It's real.
Yeah, I know.
It is real, and that's where I am right now. It's such a blessing to be there.
For sure.
You know, especially because things are just barely starting to kind of pick up and wake up in America, especially with the vids of the cold, honey. But it is exhausting. But it's good to be exhausted.
It is. Yeah, I'm a firm believer, and I'm pretty sure you are too, just because I've seen your Instagram stories. There's hustler culture is great and being productive is great, but at the same time, downtime is productive time, and we all need to remember that.
That downtime is the productive time for the person that you are.
Yes.
Productive time is productive time for the person you project.
Yes.
And projecting is great because that's how you make your living, your income, that's how you sustain yourself, but you gotta actually take care of you, and that comes with disciplined relaxation.
Yes, and if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't be as productive as you should be, so you're actually falling behind.
Oh yeah, and people, I feel like a lot of times it's easy to do one or the other. The difficulty is the balance of the two.
Yes.
The difficulty is the balance of the two for sure.
Finding that balance. When someone finds it, please let me know.
Just, ooh, honey, balance.
I love you. I'm living for this.
Thank you.
I'm so happy you're here at Black Girl Magic tonight.
Yes.
Tell me, how did you first meet the Vixen? How did you get involved in this show? Tell me everything. I really want to know.
Oh yes, honey. So the Vixen, I go back. She and I had connected on Instagram before I was on anyone's Drag Race. Before I had transitioned, honestly, because I had watched her season, I admire her, and I always have been very drag culture adjacent.
Yes.
And so she was one of those girls that we already kind of knew each other. We're like, yes, I see you doing good things. From years ago, and I think that connection and vibe has just developed, and it's gone to friendship, acquaintance, to now like sorority, sisterhood.
Oh.
And it's so funny because I'm obsessed to be able to do Black Girl Magic as a Black trans woman, but it's funny because every time the flyer gets posted, people are like, wait, why is Kerri on the roster? She's not Black. And I'm like, honey, I mean, you don't gotta stalk it, but I did post my parents. My daddy is very much Africans and Americans, and I don't know what I look like because I definitely got some melanin in me, but I guess people be confused. The thing I like about this cast is it speaks to the diversity of there is no one way to be Black, just like there's no one way to be trans. So it's amazing to showcase every ounce of it. You have, and in this lineup we have so many different types of drag. We have bearded queens, we have butch queens, we have look queens, we have trippy acid melting eyeball queens, we have beauty queens, not me at all, of course.
Stop.
And then we have transgender, delusional, delirious, exhausted bitches that like to get naked, and that's my category.
But you're also the beauty queen, please.
Okay, fine.
No.
I don't got no crown though, they won't give me one.
Honestly, I have a crown for my 21st birthday. Ooh. I don't have it with me, but next time I see it, I'll bring it. It says 21, so people.
I'll be forever 21.
Yes.
Could I pass as 21 still?
You're very mature.
I am.
You look young, but you are very
I act like I'm 95 years old.
No, not that old, but you're very well spoken, and you've obviously been through a lot and had a great journey, so you have a lot to speak to.
Yes.
One thing I want to ask everyone I'm speaking to tonight, a lot of trends in drag culture and just in the LGBTQ community. Until I did my own research, I didn't realize they came from the Black trans community.
Yes.
Because it's not advertised, which is sad. So
I think that's the whole thing, though. I think that's why there is such a awakening on education of things, because there are so many things, and it's not a problem that it gets saturated or gets borrowed and moved, and that's how life and society and culture comes to be. And queer people, LGBTQIA+, ZTESW, and everything else in between.
Alphabet soup.
And the Sesame Street, honey. At this point, they're doing algebra with the numbers too, honey. Yeah, they got T squared, honey. That's me. T2, honey, 2. But that's how queer culture is. It's not newer, but it's ever enveloping, and it's a very viral culture. It does really create pop culture, but the issue I think that happens is so many times people find something and then they think that because they found it, their finding it was a discovery to owning it.
Yep.
And then they just act like it never kind of came from anything. And it's so important to never lose that education, because everything can be borrowed. I could say, hey girl, you could say, hey girl, we could say slay together. That's not a problem, and that's not ever an issue. I just think that the importance with all of this is that we have to make sure that we understand where things come from. So there can be an appreciation, because when you don't have knowledge, there does become this disconnect of ignorance, and then people who did fight or are fighting for that moment and what's going on, they feel very disrespected, and we don't want that.
No.
We work to fix it. Yeah.
And it's I was talking to Heidi about this too. There's such a balance between asking questions but also not wanting to bring up any past trauma. You know? So it's just a process, and I think you've been honestly so great at using your platform to educate people.
My thing is, I'm a weird person. I've never looked at my life as my own, and I think the best thing with trauma, everyone has trauma. Fishes have trauma. People's parents have trauma, grandparents, kids, and unborn kids, especially coming into this world now, child, they're gonna have trauma. So it's always just good. Communication is so key.
So
some people might, like for me, I'm someone who I went through crazy things that I sometimes don't even believe, and my way of healing it is sharing, because I feel a sense of connection, and otherwise I feel a very alienated spirit if I am not sharing things. But some people, that's not their ministry, mission, or calling. But I've never looked at my life as my own, so I'm like, baby, read it, find it, post it. I don't know what you want to do, but do it.
I love you, and I love that you're very you really you're there to help people. I mean, the untapped moment you and Jasmine, that was just beautiful. And coordinating you off camera, it's so important. And you really are, you're a trailblazer. You don't ever forget that.
Absolutely. My biggest thing, because especially with this being DragCon weekend and all that, people have been coming up and like, do you realize you're impacting things? And a lot of times I don't think about how is this going to impact, but my one thing, I was raised very religiously.
Yes, you're talking.
And it never leaves you certain things. You just start to pick out the bullshit from the stuff that you see, that okay, this part of spirituality is real, this part of spirituality is projected, and this part of spirituality is completely fabricated because it creates a power struggle. But I've always wanted to leave things better than I find them. I do that to myself. That's all I do to myself. And so when I'm in a space with people, that's what I do. And I did not want to go onto the show. When I got casted, and at the time, to my knowledge, I was, probably going to be the only dog walking in. And when I went in, I was like, I smell feminine spirit. I was like, I'm female, honey. I smell it in the air. And also, I just refused to let this opportunity be a fad or trend, because trans is not, it is trendy, but trans is not a trend. And so I was like, oh wait, we're not about to make this a trend. I'm gonna come on out, another one, thank you. You got to. And that was where my focus was the whole time, especially with that untucked moment, because
so beautiful.
Find yourself, great. Once you admit that, amazing. But then if you go to that it's just so competitive in our world, unfortunately. And I've always said that there is space at the table for everyone, but the people who are at the head of the table deliberately make the table look like you may not fit. And then it's like looking at this table, it's like looking at the table from right here, I'm like, okay, this table looks about this big. Imagine if I was an ant standing back here. That table's massive. It's the same table. It's perspective.
It's perspective. It's all about perspective.
We all have a seat. And so my thing is, if I ever heard, and this is why I think that moment was so special, if I hear that competitive spirit, and in Jasmine's case, it was the reversal. It was like, oh, you know, I'll never, I hope to, I wish, and compare. And I was like, no, we're not going to do that, because what you're going to be is exactly who you want to be. Do it for you. You look in the mirror and you see a woman. So it's your job to bring whatever you see to light. And that is going to be perfectly perfect, because it is who you are meant to be.
It's you.
And that's what we got to do, you know? So that was, I think, what made that moment what I think people have seen it to be now. Because I was like, how'd that happen? What was that? And I was like, it was reality, honey. I wasn't going to sit there and, what could y'all have imagined? And she'd be like, oh my God, how could be? I'm like, yeah, must be nice to one thing. Check. Flop.
No! Is your hair okay?
It is. It will be. I think it'll whip a little easier. And that smells good.
You already smell amazing.
Thank
I don't
you.
know what perfume you have on.
I am obsessed with Delina by Perfumes de Marley.
We were really trying to have like a heart-to-heart with this freaking Red Bull that I want to lure you into.
Bribery, honey. Ooh. At first I looked back, I was like, what pee? Because it's yellow. I was like, how'd that happen? I was like, is there a rat behind me?
Oh my God.
But to backtrack and go back to where we were, you know, could y'all have imagined what that moment would have been if I would have, I guess, chosen to be like, I don't want to get that involved, I don't want to get that personal. It would have been so uncomfortable.
It would have been.
It would have been weird. So of course I'm going to step in and just
pour your heart out to
make it better than how about it. You know, like, that's just what you gotta do.
Yes. And I mean, I obviously know like that was Untouched is only 30 minutes, and I know you continued to help her. And
oh yeah,
just, well, reunited DragCon is so special.
And those moments are a lot longer than we think they are. They are. I don't even know, because every single one of them felt different, but they're probably a good hour and a half, 2 hours. And even that moment with Jasmine came from a previous conversation off camera.
Okay.
Yeah, so things already were developing and cooking, honey. So, you know, yes.
It was such a beautiful moment. I rewatched it a lot just because I love seeing the sisterhood. It's so important.
I've watched it a couple times. I don't really like watching my stuff over and over again, but I have watched that because it's just like, it was one of those ones that it went so far out of anyone's hands. It's not something you could prime or prepare for. It's not something you could be like, aha, there's an opportunity. It was just honestly spirit coming in that workroom at 40 degrees Fahrenheit, honey, and saying, let's shake the foundation. And of course, you know, when you bring T.S. Madison into anything, honey, ooh, it just, baby, it just takes over.
Yeah.
It takes over, honey.
There was not a better guest that week that could have come in.
My favorite guest that I got to see that whole season.
I love it. Well, I love Joanna's season. Like I said, every week Tori and Kerri is stunning. Kerri is iconic. Kerri looks amazing. How was Kerri's?
I wish the judges would have told me that, but you know what?
Kerri is perfect. If I searched your name in my phone right now, I'm not even sure. It's probably embarrassing. And I come off like such a fangirl.
Thank you. Oh my God. Sometimes I'm like, what's there to fan over? But that's because I see this every day. I get sick of it.
You get sick of your face?
I just think that I get bored. I'm like, I've already done this. What else can I do? So I don't know. If I were you, I'd look in the mirror all day. We should have faced the interview this way. Ooh. See, you know, and that lash is wonky, and that baby hair could have been a little cleaner. Like, that's the thing.
I didn't even notice, honestly.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. What a fun little chat.
This was amazing.
Yeah, I appreciate you making time for us.
Yes, and I love these because I feel like with the perception of me, people tend to separate me from existence.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people tend to think I am not real. Like, they think I'm like a weird, simulated, robotronic character that isn't real. And I love being able to sit down and just, you know, I don't know if we could be cussing, but like shoot some shit and just be real and share, because I love sharing, but then sometimes when I see the perception, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'm comfortable to share. So thank you for making this an amazing space.
Of course, absolutely. This was, I'm so glad we got this, like, it's full circle.
At long last.
Yes.
Hi.
Yes. Do you want to plug Instagram, Twitter?
Sure. I have quite a few social medias. They are all either Kerri Colby, KerriColby. Wow, I like the cheese, honey, but it tastes a lot better. Or if it's not that anywhere, it's the Kerri Colby, just THE. I'm a stallion, but I'm not Megan, so it's not THEE. But yeah, it's one of those two on literally everything: Twitter, Instagram, Grindr, Scruff, BGC, Christian Mingle.
Farmers?
Yes.
Is it farmers only?
Farmers. Ooh, but that sounds kind of sexy. I think they're like a 6'4", just some tall, 260-pound, muscular-ish
You're
man
into it.
named Bradley. I'm like,
oh,
ooh.
Bradley, yeah, Bradley's a hot name.
Baby, where's your cattle
One of
at?
my first crushes' name was Bradley.
It's a hot
He
name.
looked like Cole and Dylan Sprouse when they were on Sweet Life with Zach and Cody, so I was like 10 and he had the same hair. I don't even know if you know the story.
That's very twinky, but I feel it. I feel it. I've always been a daddy chaser, because even
Really?
when I was like 10 years old, I remember, like, you know, I've always been attracted to men, of course.
Yes.
Honey. But I never looked, you know, when you like in that adolescent stage, you just have like those adolescent crushes.
Yeah.
I think it was like Justin Bieber had barely came out as like being a star or whatever. Yeah. And I was like, ooh, does he have like
Really?
an uncle or like a big brother or something?
I mean, have you seen his dad?
His dad is cute.
Okay.
His dad is cute. His dad is cute. Yeah. I've always liked something just a little delicious and just thick and look what they got kids.
I am obsessed with you. You were amazing.
Thank you.
This is, I have like so many questions. I'll ask them off camera because I don't know what.
Hit me with one of the wildest ones. I want to give them something. Let's do it.
Oh my gosh.
I'm an open book, I swear to God.
Okay.
Yes, hit me.
I don't want to be too invasive though. Let me
Do
think.
it. I'm hearing a brown honey, so invade me, child. Hit me, honey.
Okay. So you are like very much like your star, your diva, and people truly like. I almost feel like they idolize you. Does that make you uncomfortable at all? Does it almost feel like they're like putting you on a pedestal and almost like afraid to even like approach you?
In a way, it feels a little correct, and I say that because I have always fantasized being phantasmic. I've always fantasized. I'm a Leo. We are very, is it aristocracy? Kings and queens and lords and princesses and territories. It's very me. Like that's, I'm obsessed with it. I'm like, I want to be, you know, the queen of someone. I want to, you know, do a president one day. Never will happen. But I've always liked that energy. I will say though, once now versus like turning that fantasy into what is now reality, it is very alienating and it is very lonely, because I feel like a lot of times I can't really be real because I had to put this character out there. People fell in love with it, but now people expect that character. They are obsessed with that character. It's almost like, imagine Barbie doll. She's a sculpted creation. She's been painted, she's been lashed, you know what to expect. You know what she gives. She's Barbie.
Yes.
But imagine seeing Barbie like on an off day. You would be like a little disturbed, disrupted. And I feel like that sometimes is what happens to me, because I love the admiration and people appreciating me and showing me love. but it almost sometimes seems like they want to show me love because of the fantasy, the idea that looks like a fantasy they were always wanting. So they love me, but it's almost like they love what I portray myself as.
Yeah.
A lot of times I don't feel like they may love me if they saw, you know, that I'm silly or ridiculous. And I think people have, you know, I have seen, because I acted a fool on Drag Race completely. And people really seem to like that. But there are times I feel like I just can't be 100% like just ugly, you know? 'Cause then they'll be like, ooh, wait, I didn't know you gave that. Sorry, excuse me, I gotta go, you know? But yeah.
That's
It's deep.
yeah, I like
That's one of the things you replay a few times and you just chew on it, you're like, damn.
yeah, but no, I've always, like, literally always wanted to ask a drag queen that and I'm afraid to.
Don't be.
So,
I mean, well,
afraid
hold
to.
on. You should be afraid if it's like some of those girls that like, you ask them, you know, how'd you break your leg that one time, and then they just get upset and they can't talk about it. But if it's a girl, especially like me, where, you know, my life purpose is to just be an open book to learn and grow from it. And like I said, make things better than how I found it. Oh yeah, ask away. Yeah.
Thank you. That meant a lot. I've been wondering about that for years. So, oh, thank you, baby.
Yes.
I'll see you in West Hollywood soon.
Yes. I try not to go out too much anymore because it gets crazy.
It does get crazy.
It gets crazy. It turns into a meet and greet, which I don't mind, but I have to be in the mental headspace
Of
for it.
course.
So people have to ask me that, we don't see you when we home. I'm like, baby, because I'm rested. If I'm in LA, I am in bed.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Anytime.
Bye.
Goodbye.